here we go for another session. So I'm quite excited to go through this one today. We've done a lot of work on this build already, and so what I want to do is I want to go through and obviously do the usual, the little check, make sure that that everything is in a correct kind of structure. Make sure that we've built everything that we wanted to build in the last. Oh, I got disconnected here. Just 1 second. I'm just gonna have to hide this for a second so I can log in. So what I want to do is obviously I want to make sure that you guys know where we are in the build. Always important to do that. Make sure that we have a little update on this, and then we'll go through a few bits that I think are really important today. And I think if you were there last week, I kind of gave you a preview of what we were going to talk about today. But just to, oh, sorry, I can actually just put my screen back on now. All right, cool. So I'm logged into the Sandbox account that we've been using to create this build. So last week, what did I do last week? Oh, last week we worked on the channels, and so that was kind of exciting. So what we have done so far, and what we'll continue doing, is using the bot through the website widget, and the demo part of the ubisend platform basically shows you the website widget. That's what you use throughout the demo. But obviously, one of the massive appeals of the ubisend platform is all of the channels that you can use. If you go on, if you don't actually have a ubisend account yet, you can actually go into ubisend.com/features, and then you can say go to all of the messaging applications here, and you can see all of the messaging applications that we have, and there's a bunch of them. But obviously we have access to the platform here, so we can have a look. But so what we did last week was we kind of went beyond just the Converse widget, which is really cool. It's something you can put on your website, and it's something that's going to work really nicely. It's designed by us, so we have full control over what it looks like, which gives us a lot of range to do some cool stuff with it. So you can do nice date pickers, really beautiful images, beautiful message formats and things like that we may not necessarily have access to in other channels. But nonetheless, not every single chatbot needs to live on a website. A lot of chatbots are built to live on messaging channels like Facebook Messenger or Telegram and things like that. And nowadays, even more so on channels like Microsoft Teams and Facebook Workplace, stuff that people use within a company all day, every day. You wouldn't necessarily send an employee to a page with just a Converse widget, for instance. Might be a bit silly if your employees are always in Microsoft Teams, might as well just give them a bot inside their Microsoft Teams. Anyway, all this to say that we have loads of channels available. And last week, what we did was we had a little look at, the purpose of our bot. And the purpose of our bot is a generic lead generation chatbot that's going to live mostly on the website of our pretend marketing agency, because that's where people land. But another purpose of the bot was just to be there where our customers are. And the direction I took it in was Telegram, because first of all, we never really did a Telegram integration live before, so I kind of wanted that challenge. But also, in some parts of the world, Telegram is massive, and so users will go and find a company on Telegram and just go and message them, and so might as well have that lead gen bot built inside that channel that everyone uses as well. And so we went through that last week, which I think went really well. We ended up building this bot and deploying it on Telegram. It's still there, so if I click to remove connection here, it would actually disconnect my bot from Telegram, but I don't want to do that. And then the other thing we did was we designed the full page bot, which was kind of fun. I remember now that we were struggling a bit with the colors, and I mean, I made the mistake of picking a yellow logo, which is rookie mistake really. I should have known. So we struggle a bit with the colors, but it looks alright. It looks alright. It's not too bad. So that's where we are. What else did we have? So obviously this happened quite a while back, but we did quite a few FAQs, which we can see here. So if we click around, we can have a look at the questions that it can answer, the answers it's going to provide. So in this instance, it's looking at a portfolio with a nice carousel message, which I think is perfectly fine, with buttons that send to the website. And then, because again this is a lead gen bot, we have buttons that actually trigger a lead generation conversation here. So those are postbacks, which are right here. So this is what we've done here. Another thing we've done is we've obviously built 4 bespoke conversations. I did one myself, and then I think Jacob did 1 or 2 himself, and then we have one that's still kind of missing any information, which is this lead gen web design conversation. And so I think that's where I'm going to start today. I really want to wrap up this bot in maybe next week. Hopefully next week. I kind of want to do, this week I want to wrap up all of the content that I want to have in the bot, which is not much really. We're not going to build like a fully fledged bot. But I want to finalize some of the content in here by adding, this conversation, and then maybe adding a few more FAQs. I think it's just going to make sense to have some more. And I wrote down what I wanted to have in the FAQs, but I kind of lost the piece of paper, unfortunately. But I remember what it's all about, so we'll go through that. And then the main thing I want to do today is set up emails. So we'll go through that in more depth when we get to it. But essentially, because this is a lead gen chatbot, what I want to do is I want to make sure that we can extract all of the data from the conversations when users talk to the bot. I want to extract all of that data, put it into a nicely formatted email, and send it to my sales staff. Because it's not enough just generating leads. If you generate leads but you don't send them anywhere, well, they're not going to be very useful. And so as you can see, we have no email set up at the moment here, which means that in a very real sense, if anyone goes through the lead gen SEO or lead gen PPC conversation, unfortunately, they'll give us all of their details. They'll give us their name, their email address, and their phone number, and when they want to talk, and all this good stuff, but it's not going anywhere. And so we're going to remedy that today. Okay, and then build some FAQs. All right, cool. So let's have a quick look at what we've done with the other conversations here. So we have an SEO conversation where we obviously start with a very specific keyword. So we've went through that, and just go back to like lesson 1, I think, of this series to understand how this is all set up. And so we have nicely worded messages here, asking for their first name, their industry, their budget, their keyword, their email address, a phone number, and an ideal meeting time. So okay, so that's quite good. We'll have to make this a little bit slightly different, obviously, because we're now building a web design conversation. And so when you actually try and hire a company to do web design for you, there's probably a few questions that they're going to ask. They're probably going to ask, the typical, what's your email address, what's your first name, phone number, that sort of stuff. But then they'll want to know if you want to use a specific web platform like WordPress or Wix, or if you want to go completely custom, then they'll want to know what your budget is. They'll want to know how many pages you have, and they'll want to probably know your industry or your niche. And then they'll probably take all of that, if I had to imagine, and we actually at ubisend went through that a couple of years back, so it's dating a little bit now, but what they'll probably go through from that information is build a little brief, or maybe even draft some things on paper. I think another thing we could do is just ask for tell us a few words about what you'd like your website to do or to be like. And I think we can probably start with that. So, all right. So what I'll do is I'll start with the very first step, which I quite like. I mean, this is typically just a decision that I like to make, or an approach that I like to take, which is asking for the user's name early on. It's not. My camera's a bit dirty. It's not like super important, but I do like using it because it means that once I capture it, I can reuse that and make the conversation super, personal moving forward. I don't need to use the person's name at every step of the way, but it's just quite cool to be able to do that. So I'm just going to do that. So when a user is onboarded into this conversation, they just click the button. So they were asking a question like, do you provide web services? And the bot said, yes, we provide web services. Would you like to speak to someone about it? And then they click that button, it says yes or whatever, and they are onboarded in here. So what I want to do is I want to give them some kind of confirmation that they're in the right place. So I can absolutely book a conversation about web design services for you. So I just want to have, I quite like this, I quite like having this feedback instantly that you're in the right conversation, because there's nothing worse than going down an entire conversation and then realizing that wasn't what you wanted. And And then, like I said, I want to ask for their name so I can use it later on. So I'm just going to do so we can be on first name basis. Oops. I like to be a friendly robot. I'd love to know your name. Sounds a bit creepy, to be honest, but we'll move forward with this, because if I know myself, I'll just end up writing a lot of content and just like tweaking it all day. So this is an interesting one, actually, and I'll get back to that in a second. So okay, so I can actually book a conversation about our web designs, about our web design services for you. I'm a friendly robot. I'd love to hear your name, question mark. Okay, so we've created the first step, and if you remember, if you just use this little keyword here and you go into the demo, what you can do is obviously test this out. And so I'm going to test this out. Perfect. So our first conversation, our first step works perfectly, which gives me the confidence to build the rest of the conversation. I know that this is all going to work. So, all right, web design services. Okay, so I think what I want to ask first now is the industry. I think that's probably the generic thing that you want to know first as a marketing agency. And if any of you guys are marketers and are looking at this and think, you know, you're completely wrong, that's not how I would do things, then obviously just let me know. But I do think that it kind of sets the scene a little bit for the rest of the conversation, which is good. I'm just going to quickly put the conversation here. There we go. So I have the stream on a different screen just to keep an eye on everything going smoothly. So industry. So the step title is, you know, obviously it's just a word. It's just you know, for internal purposes. So great, nice to meet you. Name. So we'll go back and edit that in a second. Before I put you through to one of my humans, I'd love to know more about your project. What kind of industry are you in? Create. Okay, so what we just did here is we created a brand new step in this conversation. This step has a few important features. The first is transitioning from the name step to the industry step is only requiring a message being sent. So I get back to this every time that I build a bot, but you want to make sure that you don't provide, request any very specific validation between two steps when you're asking for a name. I think it's dangerous because people can have very, very different names that, you know, we may not know necessarily about. And so what I like to do is just create just a message. And then this particular message this particular step has 3 messages. Nice to meet you, name, so we'll go and change that. Before I put you through to one of my humans, I'd love to know more about your project. What kind of industry are you in? So obviously, because you follow this series, you know that in transition here, because we're asking for the user's name, what we're going to do is store that response into a variable. And so if I go into editing that step, transition, and then I find the first name here and I save this as a variable. Perfect. I can close that, and then in this message what I can do is I can go and edit the message that I literally just wrote, remove this because this doesn't do anything, and do curly brackets, which brings up this little nice pop-up, and choose this. Cool. So first name is now in here. All right, so what did we do here? So what we've done is obviously we've asked for the first name, but then we're logging that answer into a variable so that we can reuse it later on, such as in this step. So let's have a quick look at this. Let's grab the keyword. Web design services. I'd love to know your name. So my name is Alex. And now it should have saved Alex as the value in my variable for this particular user. And so now it can use my name later on in the conversation, which is perfect. That's exactly what we wanted. Perfect. I'll try and build this a bit quicker than the other ones, just because we've already gone through a couple of conversations. So you should know how this all works. So what kind of industry are you in? Perfect. We'll actually do something a bit different with this one, but I'll keep that as a secret for now. And then, okay, so what we probably want to do here is we have the industry. We probably want to know I don't even know how you call that, WordPress. So what's this called? It's like a CMS, isn't it? Yeah, it's a CMS. Okay, so we're going to say, CMS. What's CMS? And we're just going to say, all right, this is perfect. Okay, no problem. I like to always give a bit of feedback to the user when they've told us something. And I can say, okay, no problem. Do you know which CMS you would like to use? Now, interestingly, this one is kind of different because we can provide a list of the CMSs that we'd like to be able to handle. So we can have WordPress, Wix, and then we'll just do custom, and we'll do step 4. I'm not sure. Okay, so what I've done here is I've created a message which has 4 nicely rounded buttons here. And I've obviously gone with the very obvious ones. I'm sure you can think of other CMSs that I didn't really think about. The important thing is here, the 2 important things. The first is each button has 2 fields that you've just seen I've filled out. The first is obviously the name of the label on the button, the thing that people will see when they actually talk to the bot. And then the second is, again, a postback. So it's a little piece of code that is going to be sent to the bot with along with the button click. We can use this little bit of code to trigger something else, log something in a database, whatever you'd want to do with this. So it's kind of different from the label. So the label could be WordPress, but here it could be whatever you want. So this is important because it means I can use this information later on, particularly in the email integration that we're going to do. Okay, so you can create this. Perfect. Next step, we're probably going to ask about budgets. And we're going to do messages sent, that's perfect. And we're going to do what is your budget for this project? All right. And then in this one, we could play around. We could do quick responses again. I'm just trying to think. I think we could do that. I think we could do a quick response here again. I think that's what we did for the SEO conversation as well. So we could do under £5,000. I'm just going to do that. Between 5,000 to 10,000. And then we'll do a final one, which is over £10,000, just because I don't want to be writing buttons all day. Okay, so we provide a bit of a choice here, and I think if you recall in the session 1 or 2, one of the things we did was we stopped users from actually having access to the input text, to the text input, the input field during the conversation, because that would allow us to basically just it would allow us to make sure that they provide an answer that's consistent with what we're expecting of them. And this is a tool that you can have in your arsenal. It's something that you can do just to make sure that your users are not going astray and just typing War and Peace here. All you want to know is under 5,000, under 10,000, over 10,000. That's all you want to know, nothing else. So what I can do here is I can click the composer, which is what we call the little field input, and just make it hidden. That's it. I can just create this. We'll see what this looks like in the bot in a minute once we go and test this. Okay. So we have all of this. We have first name. We have all of that. I think the final thing I'm going to ask is the number of pages, just for fun, because I think this is this is quite a common question that web designers will ask is, how many pages am I working with here? Am I doing a massive 300-page e-commerce website, or am I doing, 5-page long, very simple portfolio website? And so this is how many pages. So I'm going to do another kind of nice response that keeps the user engaged. So I'm going to say, great, we can work with that budget. And then I'm going to do, I'm going to ask roughly, how many pages do you think your website will need to have? Something like that. Again, here we could play around with creating, little buttons and things like that. For now, I think I'm just going to keep this this way. All right, cool. So we have all sorts of information now. We have the user's first name, which is a good start. We have the user's industry, which I think, I'm not sure we have, maybe in transition we can do this already. Yep, industry, we have one already, so we can do that. We're going to save that. That's good. Oh, excuse me. So we have the industry, we have the CMS, so we're going to create a variable for that. We have a budget, which we're going to create a variable for as well, because if I remember correctly, Jacob and I both did SEO budget, PPC budget. So we want to make sure that we actually have one which is web design budget, and then number of pages. So all right, let's go and do that. I think. Let's wrap up this conversation first. So, okay, we have all of this information. So what do we want now? We want to provide some feedback to the user to say we've captured all of the things that the person said we said that they needed. So we're going to say recap. So I'm going to do a recap message, and I'm just going to say, okay, thanks first name for all this info. And then I say, to recap, this is the information I gathered. And then we have industry, CMS. We'll do it later. We haven't created this yet. Budget. Haven't created this either, so we'll wait for that. Budget. And then what was the last one? Okay, so that's a nice recap for the user. They can see that the bot wasn't understanding them improperly or anything like that. Everything is perfect. So we can now add a new message, which will be, to move forward, I'll need some personal details. What is your email address? Create. Okay, so we've recapped the conversations thus far, which is important. We are now asking for the final bits of information. So it's email address, phone. For this one, we can do a bit of validation. So when the message that is sent is, an email, then we can move the user forward. If it's not an email, we're going to ask them to actually give us an email address. What is the best phone number to reach you on? Create that. So that's the email, the phone number, and then we're going to do a final one, which is just like a thank you thing. So we could do a calendar booking thing again, but I think we've done that before. So I think we'll be happy to just kind of set this up here. Thank you. Okay, and we're just going to say, great, thanks, Alex, or whatever first name. I've got everything I need. Someone will be in touch at your email address very soon. Let me know if you have any questions. Okay. All right, so what we've built is a very linear flow, very simple flow. Starts at the top, ends at the bottom. There's not much, bifurcating or anything like that that's happening. All of it is really box standard, and that's what you want with the lead gen bot, or at least one that's kind of as simple as this one, because you really want to make sure to capture all of the information you have. Now, some things that could change depending on your use case. A good use case for this is if you already have loads of information on this user. Well, you don't need to ask all of this information. So you could actually just build the conversation in a way that, at the very top you do an API call or something like that would say, do I know this person? And if yes, just move them to a separate flow where we don't ask all of this information that we already have on them. That would be redundant and silly. Another thing you could do is provide a bit more of a personalized flow based on this conversation, on this decision. So if someone says WordPress or someone says a custom CMS, it's basically apples and oranges, like it's super different. WordPress is probably going to be quite cheap, quick to build. Custom is probably going to be quite expensive. Long to build will require a lot more information. So you'll want to know that Wix, same thing as WordPress really, or it might actually just be Wix, might actually be like a £300 build. And so you don't want to scare the user with, what is your budget, £10,000, and they just need a 2-page Wix website, and then you don't want to scare the user there. So this is where I would do some sort of branching. Another branching that you could do is here, if the budget is under 5,000, for instance, then you say, we don't really work with that sort of budget, go and talk to so-and-so. You could do a branching there. And then, how many pages in your website, you can do all sorts of things here as well. All right, so to make sure that we wrap all this up, I think I'm going to create the variables now that will allow me to log all of the information into the variable. So we need a CMS variable, we need a budget variable, we need a pages variable. So let's go and build that. So if I go into integrations and variables, so we have all of these ones, and we're going to try and follow the same format as these. So we're going to do, what did I say, CMS. So CMS created, perfect. Web dev budget. Yep. Save that. Pages. I was getting confused. Pages. All right. The one thing that really bothers me is that we've done some of them with a capital letter and some of them without, and that just hurts my head. But it's okay. I'll survive. All right. So I've created the variables that I need. I can go back to my conversation now, which means I'll be able to now log all of these. Oh, look at that. We did exactly 8 steps on all of them. That's pretty funny. So we can now log the values into these variables now that we've created them. So we've done industry. Now we need to do CMS. So in transition here, we're going to save that into, obviously, the CMS. Oh, it's not. I need to refresh, maybe. Every now and then it just doesn't create it fast enough. I work too fast for this platform. Not good enough. All right, let's try this again. Transitions. Here we go. All right, save that. Okay, budget, we do the same thing, transitions, budget, so we have web dev budget here, perfect. And then pages, yep, here we go. Save that, and then at this point we're asking for the email address, so we're going to do transition, save that into email address. You also notice that we've done, what did we do? We did, we did a transition that's only going to move forward if the user sends an email address, which means that we need to add a bit of validation on this step. Super simple. We just go into that step's validation tab, and we just say if the user sends an email that is not an email address, we're going to say please enter a valid email address. Kind of went through this quite quickly, but I've done that in a previous lesson as well, so just feel free to go back and have a look. So here we go. And then finally we're going to save their phone number in the phone number transition. My laptop is actually going to take off. Okay. Cool, so we're saving all of the information inside these variables. Are there places? Yes. So we have places here where we kind of put placeholders in whilst we didn't have the variables. So I'm just going to go back here and change those. So instead of that, we can do CMS. Instead of budget, we can do budget. And number of pages, we can do number of pages. All right, cool. So it took us about 15 minutes, but we built this entire conversation, which is pretty good. This is going to allow you to build, to generate leads on your website automatically, capturing the right information in a very conversational format. It doesn't look like a form, it doesn't feel pushy, it's just a simple conversation between the user and the chatbot, and the chatbot is gradually capturing the information it needs to create a lead. So let's just have a quick test of it, just to make sure everything is working smoothly. So let's go to demo and send this little trigger and go through it as if we were, a prospective customer. So I'd love to know your name. So my name is Steve. Nice to meet you, Steve. Before I put you through to one of my humans, I'd love to know more about your project. What kind of industry are you in? So I'm in the healthcare industry. Okay, no problem. Which CMS would you like to use? Well, I'd love to use WordPress. What's my budget? I have under £5,000. We can work with that budget. That's good. Just reassuring. How many pages would you think your website will have? 20. Thanks, Steve, for all of this info. To recap, this is what I know. The industry, you're in healthcare. CMS, WordPress. Budget, under 5,000. Approximate number of pages, 20. Okay, to move forward with this, I need your email address. If I send OK here, it will do this little validation thing that we set up. I just want to show you how this works. So because the bot is expecting an email address, we actually need to send an email address. So, okay, now I know. Oh, okay, I need to send an email address. So it's steve@steve.com. Perfect. What's the best phone number to reach you on? 0800, 200, 200, and whatever. Great, thanks, Steve. I've got everything I need. Someone will be in touch at steve@steve.com very soon. Let me know if you have any questions. Perfect. So we just generated a lead. Perfect. So all of this is working perfectly. One thing I didn't show you, and I'm just going to super quickly go through it, is if I send this again, and I just go through the steps very quickly. So my name is Alex. Blah, blah, blah. I don't want to give an industry. It doesn't matter. We're just moving quite quickly. All right. So what happened here is, at this step, we're asking for the CMS, and as you can see, I can still type things. So if I wanted to say, it's dynamic or whatever, I could say that, and I could send actual content. So that's one way when the composer, this little send a message thing is activated, and I can actually use it. But if I go to the next step, what you can see is for the budget, the composer is completely deactivated. I have to pick one of these three options. I can't type, and so that's what we set up earlier. And I kind of just wanted to make sure that you've seen what the difference is inside the actual bot. All right. So step one is done. So we have full-on conversations that will help us generate leads to the very, very specific products that we have. All of the questions are very specific to the product that we have. So we don't have just one lead gen that's like, what's your name, what's your phone number, what's your budget? That wouldn't make any sense because we have 3 products. So we want to make sure that we have one conversation per product, make it really contextual and make it really valuable for the user. So what I want to do next is I want to do this exporting the leads idea. And so there's a few ways of doing this. The first is the one we're going to do today, is just exporting an email. So just capturing all of the information, putting it all into an email and sending that email to a relevant person on your team. The next thing that you could do, which we're not going to do today, is integrate it into a CRM. And so in that instance, you would have a CRM like HubSpot or Salesforce or something like that. And when someone talks to your bot and gives all of the information that we're capturing, at the end, instead of sending an email with all of this information, we're going to put it straight into the CRM. So that's obviously a big task and something that I'm hoping I can do with you next week. I'm not super technical, so I'll need to find, it's not really the fact that it's technical, it's not very difficult to do at all. It's just that the tools that we use are obviously full of personal information about our customers, and so I can't just film my screen showing you how this all works. As you can, you would be able to see a lot of information, and that wouldn't be very GDPR compliant. So I'd have to set up a kind of a fake account. So I need to have a think on that maybe this weekend. But for now, we're going to send the emails with the information. So the good news is the ubisend platform has emails integrated as part of the platform. And so if I go into integrations, emails here, as you can see, I have no email set up. So what I can do is I can obviously hit create. And we're just going to write an email here. So this is an email, well, I quite like to call them email notifications, because that does exactly what it says on the tin. It's a notification from your chatbot that something has happened in a conversation, with all sorts of information about what it is that happened. And so in this instance, we're going to send the email from the chatbot at ubisend.io, the yellow bot. And then we're going to send this to myself, and we're going to say new lead. And actually, we're going to do a different email per obviously per product. So we're going to say new SEO lead. Do I want to CC anyone? No, I think that's fine. All right. So here I can actually write the copy now. Again, remember this email is going from the chatbot to myself. So I don't need to be wordy. I don't need to make it really beautiful. I don't need to make it customer friendly. This is really just an internal email. It's still nice to have a nice formatted email, but you don't need to go and say, hi, how are you? I hope you've had a good day or anything like that. Because this is literally an email from the automation to yourself. So, all right, hello, Alex. I've managed to snag a new SEO lead for you. Feel free. It's now on you to close that sale. Here are their information. Okay, so obviously the little bit of text here not needed. You can literally just send the information. So let's have a quick look at what we're actually capturing for SEO, the SEO conversation. So let's have a look. Go into the builder, finding the SEO conversation. Here it is. Okay, so we're asking for their first name, obviously, industry, SEO budget, SEO keyword, email address, phone number, ideal meeting time. Okay, so that's got a lot of information. So first name, industry, SEO budget, ideal keyword. We're going to change this up a little bit. Phone number, I'm going to actually just organize it a little bit better. I think it makes more sense to do it this way. And then, okay, ideal keyword. What else was there? Oh yeah, ideal meeting time. All right, and then we have the information about their actual, industry and all that sort of stuff. So we have industry, budget, keyword. Okay, so you've seen me use these little double brackets in the past. I just used them in the conversations earlier, and so this shouldn't be any news to you. But what we can do basically is bring back the value that's saved inside these variables for this particular user, and basically just use them into the email. And so if I can do first name, save that, phone number, save that, email, save that, ideal meeting time, save this, and then we want to do the other ones, which is the industry, the budget, and the keyword. Okay, so as you can see, it's going to say first name, colon, and then the actual value of that the chatbot has captured inside this conversation, and same with all of the other ones. When we're happy with this, you can add "Have a great day." All right, so now I can save this, and now I have a brand new email set up. Now the email is obviously just set up inside the platform. It's not yet connected to the builder. So this is what we're going to do next. So we're going to go now into the builder, find the SEO conversation, and at the very last step, and it's important that it's at the last step, because if you remember, every single step in transition, we're saving data from the user. So you could actually put an email at any step of the conversation. That's completely up to you. But if you want to make sure that you have all of the data on this user before you actually send the email, you'll need to put it on the very last step, which obviously makes sense. So at the thank you step here, options, scroll all the way down to emails. There are currently no emails set up, so that makes sense. We didn't do it until now. And then we can tie this new email here, save that, close this, and we're done. So what I'm going to do now is I'm going to go through the conversation, and then I'm going to go through and I'll turn off my screen again for a second, just for privacy purposes, and I'll just show you what this email looks like. So all right, let's go through the SEO services. Just need a few information. So I'm going to do Steve again, just because it's quite fun. Great to meet you. Which industry are you in? So I'm still in healthcare. Ooh, Christ. My budget is, what is it? 500 to 2,000. In an ideal world, which keyword would I like to rank for? Biceps. I don't know. You've got all the requirements. What's your email address? So steve@steve.com. What's the best number to reach you on? Again, 800, 200, 200, whatever. Got your phone number. What's the best time and date to do this? So if you recall, I set up the nice little date picker here. So I'm going to do Monday at 1 p.m. 1 p.m. Send that. Okay. And those of you who are a bit more, those of you who have followed this conversation and how we've built this before, you'll notice that this last step took literally a tenth of a second longer than usual to actually being sent, and that's because it's sending that email at the same time. So this last step is not only sending the user a message through the bot, it's also sending that email to the person, as in myself here. So again, sorry for this, it's gonna hurt your brain a bit. I'm just gonna turn off my display. And I'm just going to bring up my emails. Here we go. And turn this back on. All right, I just received an email, new SEO lead from the yellow bot, chatbot@ubisend.io, to alex@ubisend.com. Hello Alex, I've managed, there's a bit of formatting issue here that I could fix. I've managed to snag a new lead for you. Here's the details. All right, first name Steve. Phone number, this is the phone number. Email address, we got it. Ideal time to call them, 16th of May, 1 p.m. Perfect. They're in healthcare. This is the SEO budget that we have, which kind of doesn't make sense, so we can go and change that. And then the ideal keyword is biceps. Perfect. So now as a salesperson, as Alex the salesperson, I have all of the information I need to go and speak to this person. I can put a date in my diary to go and do this on the day that they wanted me to call. So all of this is absolutely at my fingertips now. And that's kind of it. So we've created obviously a conversation, which is great. But the next step out of that is obviously to get this data out of the bot. It's no use being locked inside the ubisend platform. You want to get it out, and the easiest way of getting it out is just via an email, which is great. You can send this email to anyone. So you can do send it to sales@yourcompany.com, where you have some sort of round robin set up. All sorts of things can be built here. So what I'm going to quickly do is I'm going to quickly go through and create another email, just because just to make sure that we understand how this all works. So let's go through this one a tad more quickly. So chatbot@ubisend.io from what did we do? Yellow bot. It's going to send an email to alex@ubisend.com, and it's going to say new PPC lead. All right, and now let's have a look at what the PPC conversation does. I might actually just do, because Jacob built that PPC thing and I'm not confident in him. I'm just going to do the web design lead instead, just because it's the beauty of my conversation design, Okay, so this is the one we just did. So we're obviously going to need, we're going to say, you know, hello Alex, there's a new web design lead in town and we can't wait to hear from you. Here's what I got on him. And so we're going to do the same thing. So first name, we obviously want to give the first name. That's something we've captured. I'm confident we did. Email, phone number, and then we have a few more information here. So we have, what do we have? We have the industry. We probably have some sort of, oh yeah, we have the CMS, ideal CMS. We have the budget. Approx number of pages. Yeah, that's everything we have. All right, go get them tagged. All right, so obviously we have all of these variables, so we can go and fill that out. First name, add that. Email, add that. Phone number, add it. Industry, add it. CMS, perfect. Budget, so we obviously want to make sure we capture the right one. Web dev budget, great. And then number of pages, done. Okay, save that. And now obviously, if you remember the process from here, we just created a new email. So this doesn't do anything until we actually tie it up to the conversation that it refers to. So we go back to the conversation builder here, and we go and find the lead gen. And at the very last step again, we go down to email, add an email, and now from this drop down list, we obviously pick the right one, which is the web design lead. Save that. Thank you. Updated. All right, cool. Importantly, within the ubisend platform, you can create as many emails as you'd like. You could. I mean, it'd probably get annoying, but you could actually tie this email to every single step of the conversation, just to see where people drop off, which could be quite fun actually, as a little experiment. You probably don't want to do that, but yeah, you can add as many emails as you like. You can tie the same emails to multiple steps, no problem. You can tie the same email to multiple conversations, no problem either. So you can really have full control over what you'd like to design here. All right, so let's give this a test again. Demo. We're going to wrap it up after this. Web design services. Okay, what's your name? Peter. Let's change things up. Nice to meet you. What kind of industry are you in? Let's change things up again. Gardening. Just because I'm looking out at my garden, which looks like it needs a bit of care. I want a Wix website because I'm crazy. I have a budget of over £10,000 here. And how many website pages? I think I'll have like 11 pages, probably enough for me. And then, okay, it's giving me, okay, this is all I wanted. That's perfect. peter@peter.com is my email address. And then my phone number is 800. All right, so now it's sending this email, finalizing the conversation. I'm going to hurt your brain again once for good measure. I'm going to go into my emails, make sure that I have that available. Here we go. And here we go. New web design lead. I just received this email literally just now, 1 p.m. 50. There's a new web design lead and they can't wait to hear from you. Here's what I've got from them. So these kind of format is kind of weird. It looks like it's just the apostrophes that are doing this in my it might be Spark doing that actually, which is the software, the email software that I use. Peter, blah, blah, blah. Okay, they're in gardening. They want a Wix website. They have over £10,000 budget and they want 11 pages. Go get them target. Perfect. So I've got everything I need from this user's perspective and I can now go and sell to them. So this is where I think I'm going to leave it to this. I think we've done quite good stuff here. What we wanted to do was create a brand new conversation, which we did. Obviously, similar format to the previous ones we built, which makes sense because they're kind of similar products with a slightly different approach of what it is that we need to capture from the user. And the purpose of creating multiple conversations here is to really make each conversation super relevant for the user regarding the product they're after. So I don't want to have, although I don't want to have one lead gen conversation that's like, what's your name, last name, email address, phone number, budget, because that wouldn't really make any sense. You'd have a salesperson actually picking up the phone and saying, okay, well, what do you want? And it's kind of, okay, might as well just, call them if that's going to be the problem, or if that's going to be the process. So I'd rather have a lot of information, make it super friendly, super relevant to the user. The more relevant you make the conversation, the more people will actually engage with it and move forward and go to the end of the conversation, which is really, really important. And then, so we did that, and then we actually created very quickly, as you can see, it literally took me like 2 minutes per email. We created email notifications, notifications that go out to an internal member of staff, so it doesn't go to the user, but not in this instance. You could actually do that as well if you wanted to. But it goes to an internal member of staff, potentially a salesperson, obviously, to pick up the lead. And that email has all of the information about the actual lead that we've just captured. So it has their, email, industry, budget, etc., etc. And this is a really, really important task because you don't want to have just all of your information locked away in conversation transcript on your ubisend platform. That wouldn't really be of any use. You could go, into the conversations and every day go and have a quick look at, okay, we just received this conversation here today. Let's have a look at this person. Okay, this person's Alex. They have this kind of budget. Perfect. I'm going to call their phone number here, blah, blah. Like, you could do that, but what good would this be? It's probably not helpful at all. So it's better to actually send the thing elsewhere, send the data elsewhere, maybe in a CRM, maybe in an email. And so today what we've done was the email approach, which works really well. And that's where we're going to stop. I think next week, it's difficult. Next week I really want to do the CRM integration, and so I'm gonna try and do a bit of research about which CRM I could use. And if you have one in mind, feel free to ping that across to us because I'd be really interested to see it. But if you don't have one, that's fine as well. I'll try and find one myself. And hopefully we can do an integration. If you can't do an integration, I think I'll spend a bit more time polishing the bots a little bit, adding a few more FAQs, and then do a bit of training. I realize that we haven't gone through training in this series yet, and I do think that it's obviously a very important part of building a bot. So yeah, I'll see you next week. Thank you for attending, and thank you for watching if you're watching this delayed. And yeah, I'll see you soon. Bye.